quite amazing how we were all just in the audience.
It's amazing that they were all in the audience, and there was a slide ready with your face on it. It's incredible. So, as Brian said, Sharethrough were one of the first companies to really think about the way to use sustainability data from Scope3 and turn that into something that you could sell that would be of value to brands. So in the almost 3 years now since you launched green PMPs, what has surprised you the most, and what kind of results and explorations have you done with customers?
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite an amazing learning journey starting from probably around 2021 when I think you were building the company. We were just learning that the degree to which advertising even generates emissions. I think the first stat we saw was the stat that's thrown around everywhere, that it takes more energy to power the internet than it does the civil aviation industry. And it was one of those moments of like, oh my God, like what are we doing? We have to do something about it. And it just so happened you were building Scope3 at the same time and figuring out a way to really measure the emissions from that, and then figure out how do we get that in order. And then how do we get advertisers to actually reduce their emissions as well? And I think some of the big things we've learned is when we released green PMPs together and did a lot of our integration together, and really learned that sustainability, any sort of sustainable product, can't just be sustainable for the sake of sustainability. Whether it's an electric car, they weren't sold for a long time because they were too expensive, they couldn't go in a charge for too long, there was a lot of problems with it. Similar thing we've learned in advertising, not surprisingly, what matters most is performance. Shen was talking about that. Every agency and brand cares about performance. And so I think in the early stages, we were focused on a lot of the sustainable benefits. Like, this is going to reduce your emissions, here's by how much, here's how we're measuring it. And there was a lot of nodding and like, yes, we love this, we love sustainability. But when rubber hit the road, it didn't take off immediately, honestly. And so we had to learn a lot. I literally got my online degree at Harvard Business School on sustainability to learn more about it. We started educating together with you. We work with AdNet Zero, really learning a lot about this industry and what generates it and how we could bring that education to clients. I think we started running maybe 50 plus sustainability workshops, basically like teaching the industry about how our industry creates emissions and what we can do about it. And some of that education really started helping. We started running the Green Media Summit, further education, bringing the industry together to talk together about how we can accelerate momentum. But it was really once we started showing and having these use cases of like, when you're more efficient with your advertising, it creates better performance, lo and behold. While also, oh, by the way, it's also sustainable. And that's kind of the big thing we've learned, is it's kind of this is also sustainable and improves your performance. And so that's really where it started taking off. And I think we're now at the point, after 3 years, I think we've had 14,000 brands that have now run on green PMPs. We just are starting to do the calculation of, if we compare the emissions on those green PMPs versus just normal open exchange or even other green PMPs, we've reduced emissions by, I think it's 730 metric tons of CO2 we've saved in the last 3 years by doing that, and it's run across billions of impressions. And it's great to see this momentum happening from one company at Sharethrough. We're now combining with Equativ to do this at a larger scale from a global perspective. We're one company doing this with lots of brands, but it's if we can do this as an entire industry, and that's kind of what we're trying to move towards, is we can get the whole industry to see this and share these stories of success. That's when it really takes off beyond just our few companies here.
Yeah, awesome, thank you. I love what you said about it being, oh, by the way, and it's sustainability. The first priority has to be driving growth and driving the positive outcomes. You've just seen us launch an agent a couple of minutes ago and talk about what this could mean for the agentic future of the ecosystem. Do you have any thoughts on what the future of green PMPs could look like? What other, we call it internally yumminess, I need a better definition. What other yumminess and signal do you think would help to really solidify that marriage between doing something sustainable and doing something that's good for performance?
Yeah, well, I think from the performance perspective, I think what's been really helpful is some of the brands and agencies that have actually stuck their neck out and shared these stories for better. Actually, it's mostly for worse. Words like ESG and DE&I and speaking about these things publicly is almost becoming like a four-letter word now, and you're scared to talk about it. But there's a number of brands and agencies that have started sharing these stories publicly. Actually, Bob Lord and some of the Horizon teams here who have an example of an agency that's really taken that step of they believe in sustainability. They're actually making action behind that. We just actually released a pretty amazing case study that kind of brought this to light. Of Horizon had been running on green PMPs for a while, and they made a directive to move basically all their PMPs into green PMPs. And for 6 months last year, we basically measured the performance, the before and after performance of going from non-green PMPs to green PMPs. And what they saw after 6 months was their emissions reduced by over 50% on green PMPs, while their performance on metrics like viewability and click-through rate and some of the performance that matters most to them increased, and sometimes 2 times increased during that time. And so we actually just released this report. Adweek actually wrote about it, and those are the types of stories that are really making this momentum that we're hoping to see. And what we're excited about with the launch of Agentic is the further possibilities of this. Like right now, our focus had been, yes, sustainability and performance and the marrying of those two things, but also the simplicity of this. We're actually in the process. We have a curation platform at Equativ. We just re-released it called Maestro that's been around for actually 4 years now. And we are about to launch something that kind of like the easy button of green PMPs, where when you're curating a deal either directly with us or self-serve through curation, you can literally click a button, a toggle button that says, yes, I want this campaign to be sustainable, and it's a green PMP button, and it automatically removes those climate risk sites just that easily. And so we're excited to start incorporating some of that same agentic AI signals that you've seen here, starting to be able to build some more of those signals beyond just sustainability, or even have more levers to pull so that you can control how much or how little sustainability, kind of marrying that combination, that triangle you were showing before of the quality of it, the emissions reduction, as well as just the performance of your media, and then really learning together what does perform, what leads to, ultimately what leads to performance. At the end of the day, the more we can show performance, the more these types of sustainable campaigns are going to catch on and continue to make the big enough difference that we need in our industry to make the difference we need to eventually maybe reach net zero if we can get everything on renewable energy.
Awesome, thanks Frank. So maybe a good thing to do now would be to see some of those additional levers, that's American, levers, British English, that we could start to pull. So Brian, do you think we could build another agent?
Let's do it.
Are you going to come back on stage? Okay, thanks. I can't click and talk at the same time.
I will do it.
Thank you so much, Frank.
Sure, I'll take it. All right, fine. Let's build Frank an agent. All right, so this time, what Frank just said is that he wants to make it easy. He wants an easy button that he can have his clients push. So instead of building PMPs, what we're going to do is actually build an intelligent segment. And so this just means a piece of data that will flip on and off in their platform, and then they could use that to expose as one of those toggles or what was it, levers in the Sharethrough or Equativ platform. So we're going to do this for auto because we're on that vein right now. And here what we're going to do is actually go show you the targeting of all the different Scope3 media quality signals we have. So we can actually do here, let's do time of day, fine. Media quality, we've always been in the media quality business. So up here you have carbon versus benchmark. So we've been benchmarking the carbon of different channels in different in different countries for 2 years now. If you use Climate Shield, which is our DSP product, or if you use GMPs, we set the baseline to about 93% of the worst. So if 100% is like the worst site you've ever heard of or the worst property, this is our sort of standard default. You'll note that we also have MFA and IVT protection. That's made for advertising and invalid traffic. This is from our acquisition of AdLooks and Romain and his team last year. So we have MRC accredited IVT and viewability built into the platform, which is pretty cool. We also have this idea called validated supply directness. Something we see because we're integrated with SSPs is we actually see how many hops a piece of supply is from the publisher. Now, we've talked a lot about supply path optimization in this industry for the past few, 2016, a long time. One thing that I don't think I realized when I came up with the idea of SPO was it's not just about optimizing the supply chain for money. the further down that supply chain you are, the more risk there is that something bad's going to happen. So if you think about the analytics situation, Criteo was 6 hops away from imgbb.com, according to as.txt. They had no control over the fact that that domain was sent them, and they had no idea if anyone had truncated that domain in the middle. So even though the bad ad was on, imgbb.com/blah, blah, 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 nasty, if you just cut that and just say it's on imgbb.com, you wouldn't know which image it is. And that's a very typical way for an intermediary to, either intentionally or not, mess up a supply chain. So I believe we should be thinking about supply chain risk as much as we are about optimization. So validated supply directness uses all of the data we got from doing sustainability measurement and applies it to cleaning up supply chains. That's on by default. Problematic placements is the GMP plus concept from last year, where we actually crawl the entire, at least the web, and we look at every single placement to see which placements improperly render below the fold. And what we found was that about 15% of placements are intentionally non-viewable. And so if you just simply stop buying those placements, viewability increases by about 10% with no increase in CPM. So let's turn that on. That sounds good.
I can't turn it on. That button doesn't work.
I can't turn that one on now?
No. Oh, I can. I clicked it and it didn't click.
I'm just saying, I do have to do everything myself. And then placement viewability, we all know what that is. Well, viewability at the placement level is very interesting. If you use the global placement ID to identify a specific placement, you can get significantly higher viewability rates than you can looking at the average of a page. And in general, if you de-average things, you get better outcomes. So let's do that one, and let's cut it down. You pull it to 60 or something like that. Cool. And then the last thing here is attention potential, which is another ad look signal, which actually predicts how likely a given piece of content, a placement is, to receive attention using standard industry metrics. Let's not turn that one on. Let's save this. What we've now done is we've actually created a green media PMP, a green PMP, but we added additional things. We've added viewability thresholds. We've added this problematic placement blocking. We've just created an incredibly powerful tool for Frank to add to his campaigns. And this button, based on our testing so far, will improve performance by 10 to 15% with no additional cost. It does not increase the CPM. It simply increases all those metrics that we've seen repeatedly matter. All right, let's do time of day. Now, one cool thing here is that this is excluded by brand standards agent. So when we did the Ubiquity demo earlier, we talked about how Ubiquity could actually give us rules that would apply not just to training a brand safety model. We could actually have it give us rules like this. This is a very typical one from an Ubiquity curriculum, which is don't advertise overnight. We can automatically incorporate that in the setup here. So even if I forgot and made a mistake, I still couldn't violate the best practices from that Ubiquity curriculum. I can also go and choose lots of other fun times. When people buy cars, I guess. So let's go back and save this up. And now, I think we can skip optimization because we really just want to do what we said. Let's just go manage segments. And now, all we have to do is hit deploy. And this will instantly go live on either Sharethrough or Equativ. So that process, which I did very slowly, but really Anne only clicked about twice, that's a very, very quick path to getting all of this insight and data that Scope3 has acquired. All of that was free. All of that comes with this platform to apply to any PMP that we deploy. So Frank, did we do it?
We did it.
We took a picture of it, so it makes me think that we actually succeeded. And this is all capabilities that our clients have been asking for that we haven't been able to do. Many times someone would say, hey, could we have a slightly more aggressive climate shield number, or could we add these pieces? Now anybody who wants this, including Horizon, now knows that they can call Frank and say, hey, those green PMPs, can we make those a little bit like snappier? And we can do it. Completely self-serve using this platform.
Awesome.
That's pretty cool. All right, let's keep going. Good job.